Cool. All right. So, hi guys, Ogowashi. So, basically, what I'm wanting to do in this stream is come up with some uh, ideas and plan out some stuff for a new campaign. Uh, this is all. So, this campaign that I have in mind is basically a Victorian gothic horror uh, campaign. This is all inspired by actually a horror story that I saw, which is it's a similar idea. This guy, well, don't want to assume this person was talking about they'd help someone create this whole campaign, which was set in Victorian times, and basically it all went very, very wrong when I think it's quite a big. This is uh, quite a well-known story. I've seen it on a couple of channels, but a couple of brothers were involved, and they basically turned it very cringy. With one of them was like a sort of fighter character who never wore a shirt, always had his chest on display, and sort of uh, emphasized his chest at all times. And then the other one was playing a stereotypical like cat girl character, and just got very into it, and it all went very wrong. But yeah, this is originally inspired by that, and what I'm planning for is hopefully, if I manage to find players and get this campaign going, it won't be that bad. But let me just pull up the chat on my phone. So when I'm actually writing stuff, uh, I'll be able to see. Although sometimes this hasn't gone too well, but hey, what do you know? Okay, excuse me. So, uh, I'm just coming for this. It's all just going to be a lot of writing. If if my keyboard's too loud, as it's very close to the mic, let me know. I'll try and keep it under control as much as possible. But yeah, so let's get some music going, and then I'll just start writing. Um, Sort of the ideas that I'm looking for with this campaign is, so you can see the list of races there. Those are basically the sort of, hello there, hello, welcome. The Circle. Uh, so what I'm going for with these races are, these are the basic races that people are going to be able to choose from, and they're going to have subclasses, sub races, which will all possess different abilities. And I'm just sort of looking for. I've got some ideas for some of these, but if anyone has any out there, just throw them out. And also, sort of, if anyone knows any history about the Victorian era with sort of big events that happened, and also like any inventions, any sort of policy changes in the general society, um, and also like any major sort of wars that could play into character backstories. I actually, let me change this. I do have some already. So I've got, you know, you can see here, there's obviously Victorian Britain, which is sort of where I was thinking of setting it mainly, is that sort of a very well-known time in history and an inspiration for a lot of stories. Making a character for Pathfinder at the minute. Figured I'd pop do a stream while the game started. Oh, I've only had experience with D&D. I don't know much about Pathfinder, but you know, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you're watching. I've heard some stuff. I've heard some parts of about Pathfinder. It's sort of older D&D, and it's sort of evolved from there. But I've you know, if you want to share that in the chat, I'd be happy to hear about what you're coming up with. But for this, yeah, so you sort of got, obviously Victorian Britain is very well known. There's a lot of stories about it. It's sort of, you know, Sherlock Holmes, like that sort of era. There was I mostly play Pathfinder because it's open source. Ah, yes, that will always help with people getting into it if they can just go on and sort of find the books, and you know, if it's always open for people to alter without, I guess, like, you know, official sources saying like this is okay, this is what you can play. If you just have anyone who's able to contribute, that helps a lot with creating everything. So a lot of these areas that you can that are on the screen here, these are, yeah, don't gotta buy any books, exactly like that. Especially I'm a student who graduated university recently, and I'm still looking for a job, so sort of cheap stuff is very handy for me. Yeah, so these time periods that I have here, these were originally from a post on, I think it was Tumblr or Twitter or something, which is saying like, so these time periods all existed at the same time, and not many people know that, and you can have sort of an adventuring party built out of all of these different vastly sort of different cultures and like societies that would be interesting to see meshed together. So you have Victorian Britain, you have the Meiji Restoration, which was sort of when Japan was after like centuries of being cut off from the rest of the world and just being left to themselves. America went over there and sort of said, you know, trade with us or we'll invade you, I think was the sort of settlement. So then it all led to Japan becoming very modernized and sort of catching up on the last few hundred years of history. By the looks of the race list, it seems like it's going to be going for a sort of dark setting. Yeah, vibe I'm sort of going for is very gothic horror, like, you know, your Dracula, your Frankenstein, your Wolfman, like the sort of it's this name that I'm sort of throwing it around under is Between the Gaslamps, so you know, it's sort of the shadowy side of the Victorian era, where you know, with all the technological advancements, some things are like still hiding in the shadows, and that can be, you know, common criminals like hanging out in the dark streets of London, but it can also be like a sort of mystical, like mythological things hanging around that aren't seen by the wider public. But I guess it's also going to be a sort of you know, Lovecraftian sort of like Cthulhu horror sort of things could be thrown in there. Like I actually do have if I pull up my, see, I've got some of this stuff on World Anvil, but I did have a sort of introduction to the world and uh, what I'm going for with this. If I can find it, where was it? New World? Yeah, here we go. So it's the 19th century CE has brought about many great advancements and improvements to mankind. The Industrial Revolution created a truly modern age. The invention of the steam locomotive has revolutionized transport, enabling cargo and people to be transported up and down the country by rail. Great strides have been made in the field of healthcare, with various medical chemicals and treatments replacing old and outdated practices. Public health has been improved with the introduction of sewage systems, which have drastically dropped the amount of people infected with various waterborne diseases. New firearms have changed the face of warfare, making men deadlier than ever before. But in the shadows between the Gaslamps, deadly creatures stalk, not all entirely of this world. The practice of spiritualism and occultism has swept Europe and America, in which people claim to hear voices of their loved ones speaking from the other side. Fanatics have delved into this, hoping to unlock the secrets of the spirit world. Behind it all, tensions rise between governments, mumbles of war flying from the lips of various world leaders. The brightest age of human advancement may soon turn dark, whether at the hands of humans or something far beyond. And that is, I should actually put that into this document. Now I think about it, so it'll just be there. Where was it? The introduction. I'll add that there. So yeah, I'm going for a very sort of dark and very dark, very gothic horror sort of atmosphere for this world. At least the... So let me go. Not sure my character would mesh well. I'm making a catfolk bard / rogue that does juggling and knife throwing. At least the one I'm making right now, anyway. So guns are a thing. Also antibiotics. Yeah. So yeah. So this is the sort of time period I'm imagining for this is very like very late Victorian, just before like the sort of 1900s. So about, I guess, about 1880, like that's sort of coming to the end, but also like there's a lot of room there. So yeah, like guns are a big thing. Yeah, and there's also sort of early modern medical treatments. So they know like germs are a thing. They're working on sort of anesthetics to like help treat people, and sort of coming around to the idea of like, sterilize your instruments so people don't lose an arm from trying to like, heal a cut or something. But I mean, yeah, a catfolk bard / rogue that just does juggling and knife throwing. I mean, from one race that I did have for this, where is that gone? There it is. So yeah, see here, there's mutamorphs, which is the sort of name I'm going for, which are like were creatures / shape changes. So like sort of the idea I'm thinking is like sort of the existence of the original creatures has been like found, and then various sort of occult scientists have like tried to work on that idea and then implant people with it, who then can like sort of harness these abilities and change. But then there is also the Farfolk, which is the sort of name that I'm going for like the Fae creatures and the elves, like sort of operating under the old English sort of interpretation of like fairies. So like they come from this other world, and that you can sort of stumble into this world as just in like out in the woods and stuff. Like there's sort of portals to these places. So a catfolk could, if you were sort of it could be a sort of the sort of were creature, shape changer. Like they have this appearance sometimes, or they have this ability to change, but they have chosen not to. They sort of prefer this form and sort of the abilities it grants. So they stay in this form more often than not. And then juggling and knife throwing. Yeah, like stumbling into Narnia, that is like how a lot of the sort of myths around like I think they're called the fair folk, like the sort of in the like Celtic original myths, they sort of exist in a world just off ours, and you can stumble into these places by like just like stumbling into a portal. And yeah, like it's known that you have sort of gone into this place. And so sort of like how the Feywild is attached to like Faerun, it's like it's just there, and there are like portals to it, but like only in very specific places. But yeah, sort of so like a lot of the animal races in this world would be like these sort of mutamorphs, which are like they are humans which have been sort of implanted with this shape-changing ability, or they could exist somewhere. I mean, this is what sort of homebrewing and like working all these ideas out is, like how to fit a lot of these different races into this thing, which is so I'm sort of using the far folk as sort of elves, the sylvans, like the fey creatures, and they would exist in this sort of world just off of, because this is all I'm like thinking this is taking place like in Victorian London. Like this is on Earth, but just a different Earth, which has all of this magical influence, all of these mythical creatures. So yeah, there would be like basically the idea I'm coming up with for like getting a party together is you have been recruited or captured by this organization that specializes in sort of finding and stopping all of this magical and occult influence. And secret society, very underground, and I guess it would almost be like a sort of Suicide Squad. Like, yeah, you've all been brought together to sort of stop all of these things that have just been popping up and happening, and from there, establish a bigger story. 1 second. Well, yeah. So I just wanted to make, a stream, and while I'm working on this, and just see who'd be willing to watch, who'd be able to help contribute to this sort of stuff. So I'm very happy you're here, Seth. And I'm gonna start by writing down some of these other ideas that I've had. So for the Dragonborn in this, which I'm calling the Drakenblut, well, the idea was that maybe from the name you can tell these are meant to be like sort of German inspired, like because a lot of the sort of myths of dragons come from mainland Europe. Well, a lot of the myths of the the typical winged, four-legged, like the sort of dragons a lot of people associate with D&D come from like mainland Europe. Obviously, there are the sort of Eastern dragons, like the lungs of like China and Japan. But I mean, there could be sort of dragonborn from that area, but basically these dragonborn are humans that have been experimented on utilizing a substance called like dragon's blood, which is found from sort of possibly extracted from like living dragons, but then like sort of found in these caves with massive skeletons, and people have been implanted with it to basically create like super soldiers, because at this time Germany was undergoing a lot of both internal and external sort of wars and like politics, and it was like the German Empire was only recently formed around this time, so what the Drachenblut had been like sort of built to be were like soldiers for this war, and like secret weapons that could, you know, take on groups of men and destroy them with like no problem. And then now, as it, you know, the German Empire has been formed, they have like little to no purpose, so they've just sort of spread out. For a game like this, I'd probably make something akin to a Witcher or a Hunter from Supernatural. Essentially, they would all be on board with killing what goes bump in the night. Yeah, I feel like that would be the vibe for a lot of the human characters in this. Would be like they'd be possibly like sort of enhanced like witches, but they'd be from like, you know, sort of like the Van Helsing sort of idea, like old families that have been doing this for generations, like they're clued into this whole sort of magical world side to everything, and maybe they've been trained since birth to like eventually one day sort of take over the title and like combat these things. But I mean, it doesn't, you could have that same background and be another one of these characters, but that is how I sort of envisioned a lot of the humans, that any humans in this game would be like. They're clued in, they know what these things are, and like that's why they've been brought in to help fight these things. So possibly more Hunter, like Supernatural Hunter, than Witcher, but I don't know, maybe a sort of sub race for the humans where they have been experimented on, they have been altered, and you know, give some different starting maybe like instead of the all-round ASI, like specific ones of your choice. So okay, so I'm gonna write for the Dragonborn. Experimenting on. Super soldiers. Super soldiers. And resulted. In them. Experiences from substance. Yeah, so just put that there. So that's what I was thinking of. So some of these others. Okay, so the dwarfs in this, sort of the origin for them I was thinking of was they'd come over with the Viking invasions of England. So, as the Nordic myths and legends tell of dwarves, like the ones who, what is it, Ivaldi? The one who Odin sort of tricked or captured into working for him. Uh, like he features quite heavily in some of the myths surrounding Odin and like Ragnarok. Like he was the one who, excuse me, who created the chain or the leash that bound Fenrir. So the sort of dwarfs that I'm envisioning for this would have come over with the Vikings, not like with them, but like in their tales and in their legends, and from that they had maybe formed as like sort of like almost like thought creatures, or they had these tales had some basis in reality, like I guess if we're going with like magic and everything, like obviously like sort of the Norse gods would be a pantheon that people could take and use. So those would exist, and then from that, like the tales of dwarfs would have to be real. So they would probably originally come from a realm similar to the Farfolk and the elves, and they would, I think it's Svartalheim, is like their realm in Norse mythology. So they would have come from here, like hearing of from the Vikings and like the tales and like, oh, let's see what these people are talking about us. So they would have, they'd want to come see the world and investigate. One thing that could be neat is adding in Azamar that were sent and ordained by varying gods. And then smite with a lever action rifle. Like, yeah, like lever actions, they'll be a thing. Like, you could absolutely take that. Yeah, see, a lot of the ranged weapons in this game will be firearms. Like, obviously, you could have a bow if you'd want, or a crossbow, and say like, this is a relic of old hunters that is like tradition to use when killing these things. But yeah, like absolutely, like just sort of take the stats for a crossbow or a bow, like reskin it basically as like another weapon, and there you go. But yeah, Azamar as sent and ordained, like that is the. See, I was thinking, like, I hadn't really thought much of Azamar, and, like, I don't know how popular they are as, like, a race that people want to take, but, I mean, good to have options. But yeah, so, I'll just write them as Azamar and come up with another name for them at some point. Azamar, yeah, like, I guess they'd be almost sort of like demigods in a way, like, they've been sent down with a portion of their original god's power, and that manifests in different ways based off, like, I mean, see, a lot of the pantheons in this are going to be quite restricted to Earth pantheon, so you'd have, like, the Celtic one, the Norse one, the Greek one, obviously the Roman one, which is the ancient Roman one, ancient and Roman and Greek ones, which are like basically the same. You'd have like ancient Egyptian, you'd have like I mean, I'd need to learn a lot more about it as I know only very Western gods, but yeah, like sort of the Indian pantheon, the Hindu pantheon, and then like even like Chinese, Japanese, like depending on what people want to pick, like I'd have to look into it. So based off who sort of sent them, they could take on different appearances, especially when they take on their, what is it called when an Asmar, you know, when they grow their wings. What is that called? Asmar. Yeah, so you have like the Radiant Soul for Protectors, you have Radiant Consumption, Necrotic Shroud for the Fallen ones. So yeah, like their sort of trait for the level 3 trait where they sort of are able to transform, and sort of like how the Fallen Asmar get their wings, and I think yeah the Protectors have like the sort of angel wings, like based on who had sent them to Earth, that would alter their their appearance. So I mean, depending on, like, say if you took like Ares from the Greek pantheon, you would get probably like sort of a fiery sort of I guess aura, and you'd be able to hear like the screams of the dead or the dying or the shouts of warriors, and then yeah. Does it affect, what do most of these do? Yeah, so you get wings, transformation lasts for a minute, you have flying speed, you deal extra radiant damage. So yeah, and then like their weapon would sort of also like be engulfed in this, and like I guess Ares it would be like fire or something. And then I may be wrong in this, I do not know much about the sort of the Hindu pantheon, but is it Vishnu who has all the extra arms? So like I guess almost sort of like the monks, what is it, the monks when they get extra arms, the JoJo one. God, I have a character with this and I'm blanking on the name. Path of the Astral Self, yeah. So they sort of get extra arms from that. They'd be able to maybe make extra attacks or deal damage, deal more damage and stuff like that. Just depending on who they'd have. Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone in not knowing much about the Hindu gods. Thank you, sir. Bow is more silent than a gun and can have special arrowheads if you want to keep them relevant. Yeah. So yeah, like sort of silver. They'd have like silver heads for like sort of the were creatures and what have you, and then like I guess like you'd be able to make like holy water tips for undead and like vampires. So yeah, I mean silent but deadly. If you're going on a stealth mission with a bow or like a crossbow, like yeah, that would, yes, like the bow and the crossbow would probably have like a sort of stealth aspect where you can fire without alerting everyone. I think the Mercer gunslinger, like the guns in that, they have like an aspect which is like loud, like it sends off like a big boom basically whenever you use it, which would be like the opposite of stealth. Angelic aspect, yeah, like that sort of style for the Asmar. I mean, I'd have to create like whole tables for these gods and decide on what it is they would actually have to do. Get back to the races. So yeah, so the dwarfs have a very Nordic influence based off the myths and legends. came over with the Vikings. Okay. So yeah, so this next one, the Ephemera, this is a race that I'm basically entirely homebrewing. This is basically ghosts. Like these are spirits that have died suddenly, mysteriously, or like sort of brutally, and hang around basically trying to carry out their unfinished business. So they're like revenants. They exist for this purpose, and once that purpose is done, they'll be able to pass over. But until that, they are here, and basically, how they would work is they have. I actually wrote up the stat block for these already, so let me pull that up and I'll show that one. It's the stat block for these. Ephemera. Yeah, okay, let me see this. So yeah, so let's change this over. And again, you just want your own deities as placeholders. Yeah, true. Like coming up with like homebrew deities may just be a better option, but I'm just thinking if most people here, you know, this is based in like the real world, like they may think like, oh, you know, I like the story of this god, I may want to play this one, but I've definitely, yeah, I think coming up with a list of homebrew deities to throw in just as sort of like these are the options you could have, or you know, that'd be more for a session zero. If someone says, you know, I want to be like a demigod of Odin. Okay, so you know, the form that you take would probably, you know, resemble like a Valkyrie or something, and if it's Odin, you'd have like what would he have? I guess that one would be Odin would be more of a sort of like a base Azamar, like, you know, you get sort of this angelic form, and then you also have like radiant damage on your weapon or something. But yeah, so the stat block for these ephemera are this one. Let's see if this works. No, this one will work. All right, I'll just oh yeah, stat blocking sheets. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so for this is so yeah, so that's the background. You like, you know, ghost stories, like sort of why spirits exist, like why would spirits exist, why they hang around, like family spirits and protectors, and then like also like angry, vengeful spirits who are here to like torment people. Yeah, like this all harkens to the oldest question of mankind: what happens when we die? And then it's like the ephemera are one answer to that question. So basically, the ASI for this is you have +2 to charisma, because charisma in this is sort of the ability of them to hold themselves to this world through like force of will. And then you get a +1 to intelligence or wisdom, as obviously, you know, dying and you know, being able to see everything as it truly is, like you would inevitably pick up sort of extra intelligent, like extra knowledge in one of these. Age, they appear as the age they were when they died, even though they may have, you know, knowledge or like a personality beyond that. Like if it's, if you want to appear like a child, but like a child who died like 200 years ago, like they may be just done with the world and they may want to move on. Alignment, many of them sort of adhere to a lawful neutral alignment as they're neutral because they're a ghost, like they're just a spirit, like they're sort of detached from the world. And yeah, they come to terms with their new form and seek to find out more about and complete their unfinished business, though other alignments do exist. So yeah, I mean they're welcome to have any alignment they wish, but a lot of any of these ephemera they meet would be very neutral, very uh not plain but sort of like monotone, I suppose, like trying to figure out what they're doing there, like why are they still around. Size medium. Speed, their speed is 30 feet, but you must always hover like 1 foot above the ground and cannot fly. So uh I mean that'd be up to them if they want legs or if they want just the sort of Casper tail. But yeah, they're sort of always hovering. You can speak, read, and write. I just said common in this, so as that makes it a lot easier. You can speak, read, and write common, and one other language. So yeah, the features for this is ethereal nature. So your creature type is humanoid and undead. You do not require air, food, drink, sleep, and you are immune to diseases. Your ghostly form still takes damage from various sources, as it exacts a mental toll on you, making it harder for you to stay in the mortal plane. I actually took this ethereal nature, from a homebrew ghost subrace someone was doing. This sort of altered some of this. All equipment, beyond starting equipment, must be meditated on over a long rest in order for the ephemera to be able to use or wear it, bringing it into the same realm they inhabit. So they would start off with, equipment, as a class and background dictates, but then anything else they want to use that they pick up or find, they have to, as they don't sleep, they can use their long rests to sort of turn it ghostly and ethereal, and then they'll be able to use it. And beyond borders is once per short rest, the ephemera can tap into their intangible nature. You gain the ability to pass through solid objects and beings for 1 minute. If you are inside a solid object or being at the end of this minute, you suffer 1d10 force damage and are ejected to the closest available space. So once per short rest, they're able to, become, fully ghost and just pass through human beings and walls. So that could be useful for I don't know, maybe a rogue. You could sneak through everything, and then, or even just a scout who would scout ahead, find out what's ahead, and then come back and tell the party so they can set up. And see, a lot of the sort of base characters I'm imagining from this is, old soldiers who have died in battle and want to maybe see their family again, tell them they're okay before passing on, or sort of murder victims who look very sort of, if their throat's been slit, they still have that wound, or if they've been stabbed and got open, they still have all of that. So that could be fun for, someone who delights in their character looking very creepy and spooky. Is they could have that image. Anything else to talk about here? Yeah. Oh yeah. They So I'm just gonna I just ruled that they can interact with the physical world as normal, so they can excuse me. So they can pick stuff up. They can, I mean, their weapons are already ghostly, so they like on the same frequency or something with them. Excuse me. So they can still use those like very easily, and they'll still hit normally. But so they do still have the ability to interact with everything, that would be useful. I believe that's everything on these. Yeah. So let's change this back to the races. So that's the explanation for those. What's next? So yeah, so the far folk are, as I've explained, like sort of the old legends for the fair folk, like fairies, and various other stories of that. Like they inhabit a realm close to sort of the real world, but not entirely. Next. Oh yeah, so goblins in this, and also orcs and trolls, they're sort of the inspiration for them would be what in sort of Norse mythology is known as like the Dark Elves. Like they are similar to sort of the fair folk, but they're the sort of evil side. So like, I guess in terms of D&D, they come from like the sort of the Shadowfell to the Feywild. Like it's sort of the opposite. So these are like they're known as like the dark far folk. Sorry. Like they come from a world that's similar but contrasting to them. So there are like old legends of like goblins and orcs, which come from like the old English words, and like they are this sort of tormenting, like sort of annoying little creatures and monsters. So having then similar to like the far folk and the elves, and like sort of the ugly to their like unnatural beauty is like the sort of contrast they have. So very similar. They come from this sort of dark realm, which is like, whereas like the elves would be like a lovely forest, like very Feywild. Like these would be like the sort of evil, dark, dead tree forest. So yeah, I'm just gonna, and then they're all sort of related, but not entirely. So I'm just gonna write all of these as those. So so obviously humans, what humans are, that's very obvious. Yeah, so these mutamorphs, like the shape changes, so these are going to be like humans that have output beings, because people could want to be like other races shifted into other ones, but they would have to take on sort of the general traits of these creatures more than the original race. Output beings. being experimented on for to and traits. Yeah, okay. Actually, let's do these. Let's do these as well first, because that has been posed on the stream. So yeah, so demigods or beings sent by higher powers to. What was the way you put it, Seth? Oh, hello, welcome, Ashtonia. How's it going? I'm new here. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. We're just doing a bit of homebrew here. Coming up with some races and ideas for homebrew sort of campaign that I'm looking to run. As it said, sent or ordained by various gods. Yeah. So, as you can see here, these are the sort of races we're going with. Obviously, more are going to be available based on how to make it sort of believable and able to be used in this world. But so I've been explaining some of these and sort of like where the inspiration comes from and how they're going to be presented. So who have we talked about here? Yeah, so the Dragonborn in this world are humans that have been experimented on to become super soldiers, but have also taken on like the sort of draconic appearance because they were influenced and changed by this dragon's blood substance. There's dwarves, which are going from the original Nordic inspiration, from like the Norse myths and legends. There's the ephemera, which are like the sort of ghost race. There's the far folk, which are like the elves and the fae, the sylvans. And also the dark far folk, which are like the goblins, the orcs, the trolls. There's the mutamorphs, which are the were creatures and the shape changes. And we've had someone here, Seth, who has posed that Azamar would be like sort of beings or creatures that have been sent by gods to Earth, and they would then we worked on the idea that they would have different powers from like sort of Azamar base version, based on who has sent them, what god has sent them, and like who they're sort of powered or created by. But also, so this sort of this campaign that I'm planning is very Victorian Gothic horror inspired, so any knowledge of the late 1800s period would be very helpful in, you know, building the world. So any sort of technological advancement, any wars, any major events, that would all be very helpful in establishing, you know, sort of a world, like different aspects, different sort of viewpoints on the world back then, and helping establish your character's backstory. So you may want to be playing like an ex-soldier from one of the various wars that happened in that time period, who has been brought in to help face off against mythological and like sort of otherworldly horrors and creatures that have been sort of breaking through to so what's that? Maybe it's Oh, maybe it's Kieran. Yeah, that is. We've just got my DM who runs games for me and who I also run games for. He is now hosting with on his channel as well. And thank you for the follow, Estonia. So, what we've got so far is which race would I like to work on next? Oh yes, also sorry, yes, the wee folk are the so it's that. Maybe it's Kieran. Find a Bloodborne fan, they'll sure as heck appreciate gothic horror with the horror flavor. Yeah, yes. Yeah. You love Bloodborne in the Souls games, yes, I know. Yeah, that's I'm thinking of incorporating the sort of Lovecraftian gothic horror, like the Lovecraftian horror with the gothic, so like very like some sort of there may be some, mind bending, like crazy horrors out there that are trying to break through. Because I believe with Bloodborne, it's sort of the later on in the game you get, and the more vision or insight you get, the more you see like the sort of horrors that have been brought into these worlds. Like there's one which can instant kill you, like once it sees you or grabs you. But yeah, okay. So we have the wee folk here who are they're going to be the sort of gnome halfling races, but they are going to be like, inspired by the old stories of gnomes, brownies, like pixies, like those are they are the sort of, they're like the offshoot of the Farfolk. Like they are the sort of mini versions, which can be more mischievous, can be more like able to like mess with humans. You go Lovecraftian, you could apply more to the Underdark of your world. Yeah. I suppose like the Underdark, especially with the mind flayers and the like, that is very Cthulhu, very horror, like messing with people's brains. Tried writing fantasy story, it is quite difficult. I'm new to writing, doing it because I find it interesting. Yeah, writing and homebrewing, like writing for stories and also for campaigns and homebrewing can be very difficult. I'm also trying to be a writer as well in my spare time when I'm not trying to find a job, playing games and doing D&D. But yeah, like coming up with a whole new. The one thing I struggled the most with is the magic system. That is quite difficult, of like explaining how the magic in your fantasy world works, and what, like, are you doing it the sort of give and take, like the how the witch's magic works, or like sort of with the transmutation of like the equivalent exchange of like Full Metal Alchemist, or is it literally just like you can do all of this crazy magic with like no consequences, basically? That's the thing I struggle with. Regarding Bloodborne, the things were already there. Higher insight means player is more susceptible to eldritch horrors. Yeah. So they're there all along. It's just you pick up the ability to see these things and be influenced by them. Yeah, that's scary. But yeah, I think like the magic system I was coming up with for my fantasy novel is like, it's almost like Avatar sort of style. Like you just utilize the energy of the world around you and sort of channel that, and that gives you the ability to do this magic. But then I did write this sort of stuff. I wrote that when I was like, God, it's about 14. So looking back, and once I actually finish it and go through it for editing, it may require like a total overhaul of that magic system. Which is a speaking of magic and that sort of stuff, is is a good transition to come into like how is magic going to work in this. So a lot of what I'm going to do for how a lot of the a lot of the magic system in this is going to be very sort of base fifth edition. I think it's going to be it's going to have those spells and maybe cut some out, maybe change the names of some, like can't be Tasha's hideous laughter and that sort of stuff. Like that would have to change, but it would be um very just like verbal somatic component. Maybe involve a bit more magic, could be alchemical or scientific. Yeah, it could be. There could be some. Yeah, there could be some like now that it's a known thing, especially with the secret society sort of base idea that would be the sort of introduction, and then like Kerry's cackling Craig. That'd be crack. That'd be good. When I write stories, whatever genre, I'm very bad at show don't tell. Yeah, show don't tell is also that is difficult. Like you hear it a lot in like film reviews and people saying like, oh, the director should use show don't tell. It's like what is the acceptable level of explaining all of this to the reader, because this is a brand new world and they don't know what is going on. And then how much of it is, just they see this thing happening and they should know what it is. Uh it's a very complicated like level of balance to reach. But yeah, like what I was thinking of for like the magic is like use very the sort of some of it would be like I guess like the druid magic would be very almost like Wiccan, like very witch like using like the natural energy and like that sort of stuff. But then like yeah, like especially some of like the wizard magic would be very that could be alchemical, scientific, like uh especially well artificers, that's already like basically science, is like they're using science as magic. But yeah, I was thinking it would be a lot more like real world magic, like how some people take it to be in like the real world. That could be like sort of the basis for this, but obviously it works. And maybe warlocks are maybe more like satanic, like for the fiendish patron, they're more like, drawing pentagrams and stuff, and like that's what they use for like they draw like a pentagram in the air, and that's what the Eldritch Blast is. Like could be like, or even like I guess like what is it? Like in Full Metal Alchemist, how like they have like the transmutation circles, like they could have like the runes or like the pattern for that like on like a piece of paper or like on like a glove or something, like what Mustang has, and that is what enables them to to cast these spells, to like use this magic, like harness it. But that is definitely something to think about and try and work out. But yeah, a lot of it would be very sort of base fifth edition. Like that is also another thing I need in this is for those of you who are a lot more knowledgeable of uh, classes and subclasses, like which ones are too out there to be used in like a realistic sense. So even in a world with magic and all of these creatures coming through, like which one is just too like Faerun to be able to use? Alexion, thank you for the comment. All I'm hearing is blood magic where 3 drops is fine, but 4 drops is 4 drops and things go, hey, well, that could be fun if you're almost like a sort of wild magic surge. Like, yeah, like, oh, you put 26 milligrams of what I don't like arsenic into the spell instead of 25, and now you have turned everyone in the room into plant pots or whatever that surge is. Yeah, like ooh, like yeah, having a sort of a failure system. I mean, it would have to be on if they're countercasting or if they're like if they're like counter spelling or if they're like trying to specifically do something very against like so because I don't want that to be like you have to do all of these little minutiae for every single spell. It would be like if you're if you're trying to make a new spell or if you're trying to do something very specific that shouldn't be done with a spell, like that is where these these failure conditions happen and you're rolling on the wild magic surge table. Kieran, I'd say bring the artificer down a little, make it more steampunk. Yeah, yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd say definitely artificers could be more steampunk than uh, pure magic, especially in a world with of like industrial revolution. Instead of druids, shaman. Yeah, shaman. I mean, shaman. Yeah, shaman would be someone could definitely reflavor their druid as like a shaman of a tribe and stuff. With Lixion, the druid tried to grow the crops faster, but they used too much blood, and the crops forced themselves to the nearest entity after gaining sentience. It's enough to make a giant stomach explode. Oh, so the druid went overboard, and basically now it's Day of the Triffids. Yeah. They've created a giant pumpkin that has crushed the farmer's house. Artificer, eccentric inventor, yeah. Eccentric inventor. I feel like that's most artificers, isn't it? I've never played with an artificer, but the vibe I always get is very uh eccentric, very like Taryn Darrington. Like that's the only artificer I know. But yeah, I think especially like the which artificer is it that gets the I is it the Iron Guardian? They're like sort of familiar class. Like that could be very like a steampunk dog, a steampunk like manservant, steampunk bear. That could be good. Oh, was Trini an artificer? I didn't realize. I mean, that was a long time ago. Oh, no, yeah, that was one shot. I don't think he managed to get much artificing done, but I forgot he was. Halfling divination with the lucky feet. It's just this six college major. Yeah, yeah. Mechanical dog. Oh, he did have the mechanical dog. Yeah. God, I mean, I was fucking stressed on that one shot. That was my yeah. That was the first time I ran a one shot, and it was a Five Nights at Freddy's one shot in D&D, and it was like I was worried all of you guys would like it. So that was stress. But yeah, Halfling Divination Wizard with a lucky feat. It's just yeah, that is just half that uh setup. That is just that is guaranteed to always succeed on every roll, basically. From Brisbane, Australia. Oh, welcome. What time is it there in Australia? Because that is. I mean, thank you for watching. Absolutely. The audio is in the Google Drive. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't really want to listen to it because I think that one shot was quite the spectacular failure. It's 22. It's 10 hours difference. Well, thank you for staying up and watching with it and watching this and helping contribute. Like, I greatly appreciate it. Right. So, yeah, getting back to this, getting back to my topic of the races and everything. So, actually, let me switch that over to the other document and I'll add the. How's it a failure? I disagree majorly. Uh, I mean, that one shot, I just felt like a lot of it was rushed, and I could have included the sort of the other features that I had planned in maybe a more organic way. I feel like a lot of it was just me sort of word vomiting at you guys, and I don't know. So put alterations to races. So yeah, so Artificer. Don't want that. Artificer. More steampunk slash eccentric. Inventor. Yeah, absolutely with that. Sorry. AM PM time. What is this? That is the magic of the weave, my friends. Altering time. Thank you, Kieran. I'm glad it was enjoyed either way. Slate, I'm probably gonna have to see you. Bye, Ashtonia. Thank you for coming and watching and contributing. I very much appreciate it, and thank you for the follow as well. That was everyone helps. But yeah, this is also part of what I'm looking for in this is sort of any knowledge of the late 1800s that could possibly be put to use. So here I've got like some of the major time periods. Like a lot of these were, I was explaining earlier, were taken from I believe it was a Tumblr post about different time periods that existed at the same time that not everyone thinks of. So obviously the setting is going to be like Victorian London. So Victorian Britain is going to be a major sort of part of this. You have the Meiji Restoration, which was the time when Japan, after like centuries of isolation, like came connected with like the modern world and sort of I realized I was 19 instead of 18 and sort of modernized very quickly. You have the American Old West, obviously. You have sort of the last of the pirating, the French privateering in the Gulf of Mexico, and I added the German Empire part to it because that is part of the sort of backstory for one of the races. So what's Kieran been saying? Reflavoring classes shouldn't be too difficult. Grave clerics could be morticians. Yeah, that's very good. What is the I'm thinking there's are grave clerics the ones who have to like sort of wear a mask? And it can be like, you know, like can be like a plague doctor mask. It can be like a mime, sort of laughter tragedy mask, and it's like all black and white. Is that the grave clerics? Just tone down the magic to be reflected by medical knowledge. Yeah. So yeah, like a lot of the magic could be almost utilizing a sort of like a chemical property, like I guess like raise dead or sort of revivify could be like almost like a sort of a steroid and adrenaline injection. Like they have this and they say like maybe a little prayer over it and just like stab like straight like Pulp Fiction like straight to the heart and then bring him back. I need a witch hunter class. Yeah, a witch hunter class could be very helpful. Like I was explaining earlier, the I feel like a lot of the human sort of backstories for this could involve like almost like Van Helsing, like the family history of like, you know, we've fought these monsters, we've fought these creatures like for generations. Like it is now characters' names turn to take up the mantle, and even like there could be like a sub race for almost like a Witcher, like a sort of enhanced human. But no, a Witch Hunter class. That would be, yeah, that would be fun to homebrew. Absolutely. See, Plague Doctors could be another healing type. Potentially Raven Queen Paladins. Yeah. I mean, what's not to say that there's like still crazy Plague Doctors out there in this time. Same goes for backgrounds like aristocrats that are noble. Yeah, like these families, it would be very ancient, named landed gentry with like, oh, we can trace our lineage back to like the Normans invading, like that sort of family. Okay, so let me add some of this. Um, okay. All right, so so clerics, but grey clerics. Situations based more in science. What the other advice? Oh yes, the witch hunter class. Witch hunter. Yes. And we'll just put plague. We'll put plague doctor's question mark as, and then yeah, Raven intelligence. So witch hunters could be pushing in intimidation, investigation, insight, advantage, and investigation checks relating to Arcana. Yeah, yeah, that would definitely be the what they'd be skilled in for sure. Um, investigation. Very good, very good. Rogue could be cut purses. Yeah, like I was thinking, like thief rogues would be like they would be a lot more of the prevalent choices maybe for rogues. Like you know, Victorian London at this time was a very crime-ridden place. Gangs of thugs were always about. So there'd always be work for him. Rogue could be a background favoring charismatic grifter types. Is that not the charlatan? Is that not like the sort of charismatic grifter, like con man sort of level of character? Or are we saying rogue as in like the sort of Han Solo charming rogue sort of type? Karaz. Nah, actually, how you spell this, and I still got it wrong. Uh, Yeah, if you're building up your own setting, you want to be influenced by, but not lifting a literal info box. Trying to play handbook. Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is still very early days. This is a lot of everything is going to need to be looked at and then altered and then brought back. So we got this. Quick saves. Both of these. Okay. Alright, so next up. So yeah, oh, that's what we need to work on. The blooded, the sort of the vampire influenced ones. Now, obviously, these aren't going to be. Can't have level ones starting out, or even like level threes starting out as literal vampires. So I feel like these are going to be a lot more like sort of Dampier inspired, very blooded, as in sort of like regular humans that have been like infused with traces of like watered down vampire blood. Down vampire blood. Or like sort of or like infected with a strain mild strain of the curse. So like they've been weakened enough where they're not sort of dangerous to the point of ripping out throats at every opportunity, but also they're beefier than the average human and may require less. May require sort of like maybe like less eating and drinking. Well, they could be, but lesser types that then upgrade as they hit the subclass milestone. Go from sunlight sensitivity early day levels to daywalk by the time they hit 16. Feral to control bloodlust by bow. Yeah, like well, you haven't experienced it yet, but Dan Pier, he is going to have sort of uh, he's gonna have to make checks to contain like his sort of bloodlust at times. So I feel like that's gonna be like they are going to require some sort of mechanic where like when allies get wounded, when uh, they're surrounded by a lot of death and gore, like they have to make like checks to compose themselves. But no, I do like the sort of evolution to. I like the evolution of them, like because a lot of like almost like concentration checks, but like wisdom instead of con. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, a lot of sort of racials. Like I think they hit like most of them hit like level 5, and that's it. I feel like having this sort of evolution of like this race build up could be very interesting. Also, like with the sort of the mutamorphs, the sort of shape changes, like they could also benefit from uh different conditions or different sort of conditions that would help improve them, as well as also the reanimated, like the sort of or like I'm envisioning like Frankenstein's monster with those like they experiment by like mad scientists to you know solve death that have resulted in these creatures that are they're alive, but because they're also going to have zombies, which are your typical mindless undead. Like they're reanimated, they're awake again, but like there's a lot of questions surrounding them. Like also with the wolf, like I'm thinking of making those the Warforged equivalent. Like they have like the sort of the questions surrounding them, like what is their purpose now? Like what like also like do they have souls? Do they can you consider them like full beings? Like all of these sort of uh almost like existential questions surrounding these new creations. But yeah, evolutions. Uh, let's see. Maybe something to consider. The original Game of Thrones video game actually pick both boons and flaws of character creation, so it's balanced. Oh, that's that's a good way. That's a nice way of doing character creation. Ah, what is it? So yeah, some that's yeah, that is that could be a very handy thing. Like yeah, so whatever race you pick, you get more advantages over. Yeah, definitely different. You get advantages and disadvantages in certain aspects. That's very I mean, I think I've seen that on some games like Crusader Kings. You can pick positive you for every like sort of positive trait you pick. You can pick like negative ones to balance it out, and then I think it's like you have to get within a certain number before you lose you lose achievements on like Iron Man and stuff. The more floors they pick, the more points for boons they have to spend. Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable way of balancing that. This was before the Telltale game. Wow, I never see. I never played any of the. I watched. I mean, I watched the show, but I never actually played any of the Game of Thrones games. But yeah, I vaguely remember the Telltale one from like seeing it and stuff, but that was about it. Um, so yeah, these are going to be created by mad, yeah, we just say mad scientists trying to cure, quote unquote, yeah, their experiments worked, but these creatures questions yeah, I feel like that's a good way of sort of balancing it out. What else can we say? So, foods. Smaller to be tricky and yeah, that's another one as well. The uh, tieflings in this setting are going to be known as the devilish, and they're going to be because I mean tiefling lore is not like it's I believe it's changed like a couple of times, but I know like one of them is the humans that have like made a deal with like Asmodeus and have been like changed, and then some of them are like some of the lore is like uh they've been like cursed or they're like descended from people who made deals with Asmodeus. But like in this, I feel like the devilish are going to be sort of humans that have been like almost sort of corrupted or like affected by strong magic and as such have changed to reflect this like in themselves. Like I feel like as much as we all hate wizards of the coasts and their oh tieflings can only be like red or shades of human skin color, I feel like that would have to apply to this one more than. And as much as I hate sort of imposing those restrictions, like a tiefling, like walking down the streets of London, like that would be hard to cover up. Even like in a world of magic and stuff, like it would have to be a lot more sort of restrictive, unfortunately. I hate that, but yeah, that is what it would have to happen in this one. Even though wizards contradict themselves with literally the picture of the tiefling on that page being purple. Uh, but they could still have, I feel like a good sort of offset for that would be giving them the ability to have the feral tiefling traits just off the bat, so they can have the hooves, the tail, like the different variations of horns, like that would be the sort of offset to how unfortunately having to restrict the skin color. So what else can we work on? More tricky. What's wrong with that? More tricky. Trickier. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of the zombies in this game are going to be people that have been resurrected with curses or magic. I mean, it wouldn't be full, like, Haitian voodoo magic. It would be like the sort of magical influences that are like seeping into this world. Some some sort of branches of that magic can have to do with like resurrections, and as such, they are like affecting these people and bringing them back. Um, yeah, so demons, that's going to be that's going to be sort of based off a lot more of the sort of real demons, like the ones that I'm always mentioned on like Supernatural and like other shows like that. So like like Lucifer, Beelzebub, like those ones. Those would be like the sort of demons that I think would be used in this game. So we got. I mean, I've not got much for the ephemera, but I've already shown the stat block for those and what they can do. So not much is known, but not much is need to be done for those, I suppose. Farfolk, the goblins. That's them covered. Humans. Is it possible sub races would be enhanced by magical, I guess, genetic means to help. What's this? What would be what are other like essential races that need to be sort of dealt with, that need to be not dealt with, that need to be sort of added into this. Move that top until we get a name for the Azamar. So it's all alphabetical. What else can we do? All right, so we got these. Let's go back to the let's go back to the other document and sort of check all that out. Actually, that's a good thing to do. We could do sort of villains or like story arcs that could be done. So if you subheading arcs, villains. So thinking of like Victorian London. I mean, obviously some of them are like Jack the Ripper. That could be like a whole murder mystery arc. You could have Springhill Jack. That could be some like an actual, because Sprinkle Jack was always like described as like this demonic creature that would like harass people and then like leap over like a 10-foot wall and then vanish in like a puff of smoke or something. Don't know what or how that was done, but that could be another sort of investigation to carry out. Um, I guess you could like make mentions of like, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes and like Moriarty and that sort of stuff. Like that could be like maybe going on in the background where you hear like tales of it and the like. You gotta have like a murder mystery, like a big like noble estate sort of set up, like those old like dinner party Cluedo uh stories that are like essential for any like Victorian setting almost. Um See a lot of this sort of explanation for these creatures appearing and like coming into the world. Like, oh, I'm sorry, Kieran. Your last comment didn't come up on the actual Streamlabs, but it was kind of like Dark Souls and Skyrim and Witcher, but didn't get good reviews at the time. Oh well, I mean, I'll have to track down some. I'll have to track down like a review on it or like some gameplay and see what it's actually like. But that could be interesting. Um, right. So, what's it saying? Yes, yeah. So a lot of the sort of magical, like spiritual side of this is going to be like a lot to do with like the uh, spiritualism, occultism, like trend that was sweeping uh, like Europe and America at this time period. So a lot of there could be some sort of side jobs almost with like seances and like hauntings. Uh, well, like it'd be like seance has gone wrong, and then like hauntings, like affecting people. Spot that one. No. Then overall, a lot of this can deal with like gangs of thugs uh, sort of in the background all the time, and coming off that, like some could be like trading uh, magical artifacts and oh, and uh, using them for like jobs or to sort of gain power in the underworld, in the criminal underworld, or to get power. They sort of mind control like a whole group of people to work for them, as well as just regular Victorian gang thug ideas. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen vibes. Get your Invisible Man on. Yeah, yeah. Like there is a sub race of the ephemera, like the sort of ghost people that I was thinking of making like poltergeists, and they have like sort of racial ability to go invisible. Uh, like every long rest or short rest. But yeah, I mean that the sort of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is like the sort of I guess they'd be the sort of organization that would be like the introduction. I guess I was envisioning like the party is brought in this almost like Suicide Squad sort of like there's a secret society dedicated to like identifying and stopping all of these like occult things that are happening, and they're like assembling a team to like help uh prevent this. So that would be like the sort of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Like you have this group of people with like all of these abilities sent out to stop these things. Yeah, yeah, the oh, what they called? Like the BRPD or something. The ones Hellboy works for. Yeah, like that sort of society or organization. Yeah, definitely. Story arc for villains. And you can think of it off the top of my head. Those are the ones that it's hitting me hard at the minute. Oh, I mean, I guess if you've got an organization you're working for, you got to have like traitors within the organization. It's always a twist to throw in there. Oh, sorry. Wardrobe. I guess. I mean, a lot of stuff at this time was like a lot of cultural artifacts and uh, important important objects were being like taken by like, the British for like during the colonial phase. So I guess you could have like sort of stuff like with the mummies or like um with the uh other what's going to be the word? It's like other cultural artifacts or creatures uh brought brought back from their homelands. So I mean, mummies they got like a terrible treatment during this time with the like people used to eat them. They used to burn them for fuel in places. They used to paint walls with like crushed up mummy remains. They used to use them for medicine. If they did a lot of weird thing with like mummies. It was very strange. I mean, it would be reasonable for them to want to strike back and cause some damage, mess some shit up. um, yeah, that's good. Snort mummy powder. Hello, mesmerizing cobra. And yes, they did used to snort mummy powder. That was very strange. Yes, they did a lot of strange things with mummies. Um, right, what else have we got here? So we got major time periods. We have Wars of the Latter. Because the reason I've got Wars of the Latter 19th century is because if a character wishes to have like a soldier background or some uh military influence on their past, like you couldn't have like wars that started at the very like beginning of the Victorian era because but I mean you could, but the character would have to be like very old by that point. So I chose like the latter 19th century because that's when a lot of sort of veterans would be coming home, like back to England, and also like they would have had time to sort of readjust and find other work, or uh, yeah, like they wouldn't be too old. But maybe you want like a 70-year-old veteran fighting uh, a werewolf or something. That could be fun. That could be a good image to have. Um, yeah, so these are some of the, inventions that I first thought of. Like, obviously, like guns are going to be a large place to live that brought a mummy into a cave. There's now a legend about a moss that creeps through the cave and can't be destroyed. It has to be torched every year in order to hold its offense. That is amazing. That is an amazing story. Like, I lived that brought a mummy into a cave. That is really cool. Do you have like I mean, I'm not gonna dox you. Do you have like the name of the cave? Because I'd love to read more on that, and that could be a great inspiration for a story in this actually. Has to be torched every year in order to hold its events. So this moss is just continuously growing, and I assume it happened after the mummy was brought in, or that's when it was like noticed. That is very cool. Uh, but yeah, so these inventions are also like sort of the most important ones I could think of. So you have like obviously, firearms are going to be part of this as uh just sort of reflavored ranged weapons. That was part of the story. It was the haunted tour at Cave of the Winds. I'll have to check that out because that is a great story. I I enjoyed that, and that could be a great inspiration to have as part of this. That is really cool. Thank you for that. But yeah, but yes. So, uh, that's awesome. So, firearms are obviously they're going to be a part of this. And they're basically just going to be reflavored ranged weapons. But I mean, you could still have. I discussed this earlier with someone that you could have. You could still have traditional like bows, crossbows. Like they're like relics of the hunter family you come from that wish to preserve the traditions, but they'd also be able to be like more easily outfitted with like like silver tips for like hunting the sort of were creatures, and like you have a crossbow with like a holy water vial for like vampires and the like. So yeah, like this is around the time when the first machine guns were coming out, and that could be a fun thing to give the players for like if you ever have to hold off like horde or something like coming towards you. Obviously around this time like indoor plumbing was actually becoming available, as well as like electricity was becoming more widespread. They were also establishing the postal service, so you could have like uh, people like you're able to hear more news about like what's going on in the city, as well as hear people's interpretation of updates of like excuse me like these monster killings based on like what is the normal humans view on these things. The first police force was introduced in London in the 19th century, so you could have like uh the police interfering with these investigations, or even like outright like hostile towards them if stuff goes about it the wrong way. And also like the telegram and the telephone were invented in this time period, so you could have this new method of communication like across long distances. Um, so I thought those were the ones that were well indoor plumbing, but I thought these were the ones with the most like sort of relevant ones that could be of use. But yeah, we've got some alterations there, story arcs and villains. Um, okay, what else? What else can we work on? Yeah, I think yes, for like, sort of the demonic side of the sort of magic. So you'd have what's that? Right, I'm popping up some sort of shopping system. Maybe you need D&D, but you stream on the PS and look, but I'm doing the thing. Great. All right, Kieran. Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming to watch and also hosting me as well. Like, appreciate that a lot. All right, enjoy yourself, man. But yeah, so for the demonic side of things, I'm gonna have like very uh traditional like satanic ritual, uh demonic demonic summoning rituals. Like pentagrams, uh, candles, blood, sacrifices, the like those are going to be the sort of rituals that the party could be able to intervene with and start. Just be out here, I'll be here, just start doing things. All right, man. Cheers. Thank you very much, Kieran. Talk to you soon, mate. Yeah, these could also be like sort of sacrifices on wrong that's left them. Excuse me. Oh no, I wanted that. I wanted that to be correct. Go with that. Um, go through spread. Maybe I suppose the regiments of the Drakenblut were dissolved. Uh, work. It's office mercenaries, I suppose. It's Nordic influence based off of the myths and legends, Vikings. Farfolk, they can be pretty and will so these Farfolk are these sort of fey old legends of the fairy creatures that uh, trick people and will not hesitate to steal like names and identities if given. Not had much interaction with the Feywild in D&D, or like, I mean, we've been there in one of the campaigns I've played for a few sessions. We interacted with some Fey who were quite tricky and like hard to read, but yeah, the ideas that I'm having for these are the very traditional old legends of the fair folk where what is it? This it's the they'll ask you stuff like, "Oh, may I have your name?" and you give them your name, and then they stolen it, and they literally have your name. Like you don't have a name anymore. When is this set? Maybe we'll to use Queen Mary as a battle map. Sword idea is out. This is the setting I had for this was it was very late Victorian era, about the 1880s, like sort of the end of that era, just before it's about to change into like the sort of Great War era. So you've got like very advanced technology and you know world tensions are rising, but uh, maybe yeah, maybe not the like the Queen Mary, but you could have like the old sort of steamboat ferries with like the big wheels on the sides. You can incorporate the changelings into the fact. Yeah, the Farfolk are gonna have like I'm glad you like the steamboat big wheel ideas. Yeah, the Farfolk they're basically going to include all of the sort of the Fae. So like you got your Sylvans, you got like the satyrs, the fairies, the sort of pixies, the sprites. Like they're all sort of classed under that. But there are also going to be the what I've called the dark Farfolk, which are going to be like the Steamboat Casino scene. Yeah, that would be Ocean's 11 on the steamboat. That could be pull a heist on a steamboat. Yeah, the sort of dark bar folk. They're going to be like your trolls, your goblins, your orcs, like the sort of the Shadowfell ugly side to the like the elven beautiful side of it. So I'm not too sure if changelings are considered evil, but they definitely be classed under like one of them. Sounds somewhat typical unseelie court. Yeah, yeah, like the unseelie court basically, like uh sort of the evil side, even though that's not what the Fae are all about. They're all like two sides of the same coin, I believe. But yeah, they're gonna have that sort of opposite dynamic to each other. Um, so I'm not too sure if changelings are considered evil, like which Seelie or unseelie, but they'll be in there somewhere. That's all I know. Yeah, I guess are you? I guess the changelings are yeah unseelie. Like the changelings are like they're the babies that have been swapped at birth. Yeah, yeah. You just got them just before me. Yeah, yeah. The steal people's babies, replace them, and then like the babies grow up to be like terrors. Yeah, or unseelie really evil. Well, yeah, I did say they're like the two sides of the same coin thing, aren't they? They're the some may consider them evil, some may consider them good. It's just uh, I mean, all of the Fae operate on their own sort of spectrum of morality. Like everything's different in the Feywild. They're just doing what they do. But you rule the Shadowfell as opposed to Feywild. That's how full both wins are neutral in specific parts. And all Fey not generally to be trusted, but honestly they just ugly in general. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we've got the quite the Queen's neutral and just they just reign over specific parts, but yeah, like I think Cobra's interpretation of why the Unseelie are evil is because they're just uglier and that's what humans think is bad, but you know, not to them. But yeah, like obviously like these are considered like the goblins, the orcs, the trolls, they would be considered the dark fair folk, but that doesn't mean like you know every every character of any race in D&D can be as uh, changeful as unique and sort of independent of their species morality as you'd like. The humans can be evil, goblins can be good and just misguided. It's like you'd have to meet some of these creatures and decide for yourself. Subject to, I suppose, my own silly queen is beautiful, not biased at all. Yes, your unseelie wife. No, the queens we met in the Feywild, they were nice. I mean, the unseelie one took to us more than the Seelie one. She gave us the whole quest to help get us home or back to Faerun. Um, yeah, so the mutamorphs, these were creatures slash shape changes, they're going to be beings that have been sort of experimented on or changed by magic to take on animal traits. So like your werewolves, your were tigers, were bears, but also like I feel like some of these could also be some choose to like remain as their anthropomorphic animal. More often than not. And so, like, I mean, back during this area of history, the horribly named freak shows were a thing. So, I suppose those could be like uh, sort of forms of employment slash uh, areas where they have captured these creatures and are putting them on display for you know money and profit, which could be actually that could be a plot line. We'll add that into the other document with the story arcs. Sure, would be great. Yeah, cover for a fake carnival. Yes, the greatest show, but run by tricksy creatures trying to. I don't know what would a fake carnival be trying to accomplish. I mean, some may just be in it for the entertainment value, but there's always going to be some with other motivations. Getting new performance twist. Oh, I've got Rakdos on the brain for some reason. So gaining performances to twist and display. Rakdos in the brain. Said of Faye. A man needs the party to recover his wife from the freak show. Stolen in the night. Yeah, the bearded lady. Yeah, this circus comes to town and then there's tales of disappearances. Appearances. I feel like I've heard of Rakdos before, and I'm going to need to just quickly look that up. I want to know what Cobra's putting down. Ravnica. Is that it? Ravnica, the demonic cult of Rakdos. Doctor Fuller Circus of the Disquieting from SCP could be a decent reference point. It's Rakdos, but most of what I'm thinking is. Okay. Okay, Cobra, thank you. Dr. Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting from the SCP. Oh, well, the SCP is always good. That's always good for this sort of stuff. Oh, I'll have to give that animation a watch earlier. Guildmaster's Guide. Yeah, I bet. Which plays into a lot of those products, i.e. D&D. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, the Magic the Gathering. Yeah, they had that the crossovers, didn't they, with wizards? But yeah, SCP and Guildmaster's Guide. Yeah, especially with SCP being uh like a lot more based in sort of reality and creepy things that seem normal. Like that could play into a lot of this uh sort of hiding this weird stuff hiding um behind the normal. I mean, this I'm calling this thing. The idea I have in mind at the minute is called Between the Gaslamps. So it's like the sort of what happens in the shadows between the light. That's going to be this whole sort of creatures from the dark, uh, like unknown horrors, like that need that are that cause people to be scared of them. Um, we've got that. Are there any other very glaringly obvious? I mean, I'm gonna have to put the steam. I need to put the steamboat casino on here as well. Actually, now that's been brought up, are there any other very obvious sort of Victorian era uh stories that are always happening that I'm missing out on? I mean, we've got Jack the Ripper, we've got the Springfield Jack, possibly mentions of like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. We've got the obvious murder mystery in a big noble estate, and the party are locked in and need to solve it before any more people die. Obviously, with the whole magical and like sort of spiritual and uh, unknown horrors thing, we're gonna have like some sort of seance that's gone wrong and hauntings like taking root in houses. Yeah, we've got the gangs of thugs who are, black market magical artifacts or using them for themselves, with the idea of sort of the party working with slash for this like secret occult organization, traitors. Obviously, we've had mummies and other cultural artifacts of creatures that have been brought to England from homelands. Or any other very obvious stories? Smoke methods. Ooh, smoke method. Grave robbers, yeah. Smoke methods brought forth from gas lamps by a blast could be fun. That, yeah, that'd be a good mechanic actually. Just poured out of the gas. Witches, yeah. Witches are a prevalent inspiration. Okay. So we've got grave robbers. That could be for the scientists trying to make creatures, whether that be these reanimated ones that are like the intelligent undead, or the just mindless zombies. Uh, or cultists, yeah. Oh, corrected one. That's a bit unnerving that it auto-corrected cultists for me. Thank you. Okay. Smoke methods. Gaslamps. And we have, witches. A little too early for any Lovecraft. It's never too early for Lovecraft. But I mean, I was thinking of having some sort of immense, like a lot of this is going to be your cosmic horrors, so like your traditional monsters that exist, and then like fighting those and dealing with them. But no, some Lovecraft could always be helpful with your unknowing cosmic horrors that turn people mad looking at them. You know, Hamius Mora, that sort of stuff. Uh, Crafting horrors, always good, always good. Um, so yeah, Steambook Casino, Grave Robbers, Smoke Methods coming from Gaslamps. It's mechanic. I'm just trying to pull on my knowledge of sort of Victorian era. I mean, you've got assassination plots, always good against, Queen Vic or Parliament, or it's all like high level military people. It's good. True, this has been I've read on homes where the British royal family ruled times being eldritch abominations, and it's basically the gods of the country. That sounds like a great read, honestly. That reminds me of the From Hell, the Alan Moore Jack the Ripper thing, where all of the Jack the Ripper killings tied to uh, they're all tied to the royal family, and then they're all tied to the Freemasons and that sort of stuff. Neil Gaiman, Neil Gaiman, he's always a good writer. I do love his stuff. Good Omens. That's the thing I've read from him most recently, and that's a great read. I mean, we all know Queen Elizabeth's what is it, reptoid person, or whatever it is. But the Eldritch Horrors, that Eldritch Abominations, that's a new one. Yeah. I'll have to give that a read as well as that Cave Mummy story. Cobra, you've got some great new ideas that uh, I do enjoy that. Um, all right, what else have we got to work on? Um, I put, I guess I can just generally put cultists and trying sacrifices. They're always timeless, traditional little quests to do in D&D. And with the sort of emphasis on the spirituality and occultism that I'm trying to sort of implement into the backdrop of all this, like this, like extreme cultists, they could also always be a handy enemy for kidnappings and the like. It was like rogue, no, not rogue, feral, mutamorphs, and, werewolves, going wild, going on a killing spree. And it should be sort of labeled as animal attacks. And, vampires, draining people. I think they're always fun to throw in. I mean, I think that's me about done. Honestly, I think we've done some really good work here today. I think, my throat's hurting a fair bit. What's it say? I don't know how true it is, but I've seen it alleged that werewolf mythology is at least in part established because of serial killers. Clearly, these were in human acts. Oh yes, I watched a documentary on that. Oh, it was years ago, but it was basically a story of I think it was like Eastern European, or like Russia, but there was a story of a werewolf that murdered people, and they just kept finding these bodies out in the snow, and they were that like torn up and torn open that it could only be like the work of a man wolf because it was that horrible and that inhuman. But no, yes, I've heard that. And I mean, with some stories you hear, like even like with Jack the Ripper, like that, people were saying like he wasn't human and stuff, and that he's I think he leaned into that a lot with like the was it the From Hell letter that he wrote, saying like, oh, uh, it was like signed like From Hell, Jack the Ripper, like feeding into this inhuman sort of mythology surrounding him. Nike Vera. Hello, Vera. Uh, I'm sorry, but you joined at not the best time because I'm actually going to be heading up now. My sort of my throat's going, and I've got stuff to do. But thank you for commenting even at that. But yeah, that's that's everything for today, guys. I'm going to be doing more of these in the future, so if you'd like to see more, if you'd like to contribute, please, follow. Um, but yes, thank you for all the great ideas and all the great stories today. I've got some stuff to look up. Thank you, Cobra. I very much appreciate that. Yes, have a good one yourself as well. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon, guys. Goodbye.